He's going to join the long list, right? I mean, others haven't talked, but if you look strategic, financial, you're going to have a long list of buyers from big tech as well as outside looking to get TikTok because it's a unique golden asset that no one ever thought would become available. We still believe only a 25% chance this ban actually happened.
So, what's going to be the big sticking point for that kind of a bet? Is it the algorithm?
It's all about the algorithm. The source code is not going to leave. ByteDance in China are not going to allow the source code and the algorithm to go to a US company. And that's buying an F1 car without the engine. That's the fundamental issue here is that because of the source code, it makes this extremely complex. The value is vastly different without the source code.
Hmm. Well, then here's my question in terms of what the government will allow. It's like, will the government like a Mnuchin-led investor takeover? Will the government like a Netflix or a Netflix? I mean, a Meta or another social media company buying TikTok? Like, if you divest, like they have to be okay with who's going to buy it. What do you think?
The devil's in the details, right? I mean, the problem is, look, this is all a third rail issue. It's great theater in DC in front of the microphones. The reality is the selling and ban of TikTok, first, besides First Amendment, what could happen to other social media, there's a huge ripple effect, the negative retaliatory from China, as well as ultimately, how could you sell this without the source code? And ByteDance in Beijing are not going to allow source code to be sold. And that's the issue for Senate. I mean, does Schumer even let this get on the floor? That's going to be the problem. It's very good for grandstanding, but the reality of it is very
Mm-hmm.
complex.
I mean, and you add to that that Congress really just has not done well in the past of turning denunciations of these perceived tech abuses into law. I mean, you think about things about like protecting children online, antitrust authority, data privacy. This is not something that has come into really forceful law. So, I mean, there's a chance this might just all fall apart anyway.
That's why it goes, but like all the work we've done, 25% chance a ban actually happens. Because to Alex, like to your point, okay, so now a ban happens, the 25% chance. How do you sell it? So you're forcing them to sell. They don't have to sell without source code. Then who's going to buy it?
Mm-hmm.
And then it comes down to, okay, so now let's say it gets sold to Microsoft, to Oracle. Then is there antitrust issues from a government perspective? The problem is you can't put genie back in the bottle. This is going to have huge complications because TikTok, as well as the precedent and even the spider web in terms of how it gets sold.
How much do you think TikTok's worth? Like, let's just game it out.
100 billion with the source code. Without the source code, 30 to 40 billion.
Wow, that is a big, 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 big difference. So what are you watching next for it then? Like, what's the next trigger point for you?
Well, I think now the soap opera, we'll see that in the 202 area code. Does it actually get to the Senate floor? What negotiations go behind the scenes? You have 150 million users. So, you're in election year too. So it goes back to that third rail issue, voting down TikTok as a ban, not good for the 18 to 24-year-old vote. So we got to see how this all plays out. Obviously, Trump on one side, Biden on the other in terms of the TikTok ban. Look, Mnuchin, that's the first shot across the bow in terms of, looking for, potential to line up as buyers. Others are clearly behind the scenes doing the same thing, but it's all a game of high stakes poker right now, playing out.
So, on the assumption that somehow this algorithm, the source code, does become part of the sale, who do you think is the best strategic fit for this as a buyer?
Look, there's a better chance of me playing in March Madness next week than this being sold with source code. And
Dude, you
that's the
never know,
fundamental.
man. They could come knocking
You
on your
never
door.
Yeah,
know.
again, 3-pointer, decent. But look, but the point is, you never know in terms of now what Beijing and ByteDance are thinking. So now, even to just trajectory this out, let's say they do it without source code and there's buyers. Then
Yeah.
the question is, where does it go? Is it big tech? Is it a consortium like a Mnuchin, other financial buyers? And this is going to be just a spider web of regulatory. It will go through the court system. And I think that's how this is all going to play out. Is there's a huge ripple effect, unintended consequences when you go down this path.